pleased to welcome Gavin Powell from FinTech Wales to Global Tech Insights. Gavin represents an organisation clearly called FinTech Wales, and we hope we can discuss such things as what is FinTech, what are the challenges, why FinTech is important to the Welsh economy, etc., etc. So I guess, Gavin, maybe you could tell the audience, what is FinTech?
Indeed. Good morning. So FinTech originally came from the sort of knowledge and idea that financial services was progressing as much as any other sector was and becoming more digitalized, and was utilizing technology much more within its services, products, ways of business, etc. FinTech's sort of grown up a little bit since then, and we're definitely seeing a lot more FinTech companies directly offering their own services, which are in competition to some of those more traditional incumbent organizations. If you look at some of the challenger banks, that's a really good example of how that's transitioning. Going forwards, we see the sort of role of FinTech has been even more wide encompassing. So a lot of other sectors, particularly emerging, but as existing ones as well, will be very much embedded in FinTech, not just within their ways of business, but it's actually the thing that enables them to do business. Particularly when you look at the way payments are ways, how you transfer money, and a lot of other similar things, which will be so much a part of pretty much every sector and every business that we have here in the UK economy and Wales economy as well.
Yeah, I think South East Wales certainly is a hotspot for insurance and banking in these sectors. But I guess from a startup perspective, they're trying to disrupt the existing status quo ultimately to provide some form of value statement. Yeah, and I guess you have to keep all that. So I think it's true to say South East Wales is a real hotspot for FinTech organisations. Large companies such as Admiral, Go Compare, etc., etc. But there are many disruptive startups in the area, all trying to ultimately cannibalize some of the existing business. So I guess you actually support this kind of breadth. Would that be a true statement?
Very much so. So as you mentioned, insurance is probably what we're most famed for in particularly South East Wales, at least anyway, with some very much household names that exist across that online comparison market area.
Yeah.
But that no way dictates what exists in terms of the talent and the capability, and also the opportunities going forward that we have in Wales across those financial technology companies and services. So it is very much broader than just insurance, but that is our sort of niche and USP, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's great. So what exactly are your what would you say are your objectives as an organisation? Are you there just to support, or do you actually have some really hard objectives to achieve?
We have some very ambitious objectives. Whether or not they're hard is another question. But at the top level, what we're trying to do is make Wales the best environment for you to start, grow, and add resilience to your companies in the sort of less risky way if possible. So if you look at the startups, then those are the guys who are sort of at high risk. There's a lot of upfront effort that needs to go into things just to get that business up and running, and that's the point where they need as much help and support as possible.
Yeah.
Similarly, you get different needs for different sizes of companies, so scale-ups need different things. They're very interested in how they actually update their business models, etc., and how they bring the necessary skills on board at the right times to make sure that they actually scale up properly. And then the larger companies, again, they're trying to grow, they're trying to sort of protect their area of the market, they're trying to innovate, they're trying to create new products and services, and they're trying to ensure that the necessary skills are actually there when they need them as well. So all of that is sort of stuff that we cover and try and support as much as possible.
Okay.
If you'd like the sort of mechanisms we're actually trying to put in place over our first year is the sort of building up of those tools that we need, if you like, to best support all areas of the fintech sector, of all sizes. And that's pretty much what we've been focusing on for the first 12 months. Other objectives are the sort of more typical ones that you might expect with a trade body around putting on events, the networking, building connections, trying to provide access to financiers and venture capitalists, etc., just to make sure that our community is coming together as a whole and having the best opportunity while we create those other bigger building blocks.
Yeah, I see. So you're kind of trying to be an enabler between all these different organizations and maybe some government innovation boards, etc.
Yes, very much so. So we do align quite a lot with both the UK and Welsh government, and also with the sort of the larger companies of their needs as well. We need to be quite aware of what those are to make sure that we align those best as possible to create that really good environment and ecosystem where those companies can come to start, grow, and be really, really successful.
I guess I work in after 30 years in R&D. I now work in technical recruitment, and ultimately I see pretty much everywhere in the UK a severe shortage of skilled talent. And I don't see. There are a number of organisations desperately trying to solve that, but the demand is always bigger ultimately than the supply. So what do you see? Do you see this challenge in terms of large and small, medium-sized companies struggling to get the necessary people they need to grow and develop?
Yes, definitely. So, well, it's not specific to Wales. It's more of a generalised thing for financial services.
It's probably I see similar things in Germany. I think it's Europe worldwide. Yeah. I think the only countries that really provide sufficient numbers of graduates into industry is India and China. Yeah, where maybe certainly in India, 250,000 STEM graduates come on the market every year, which really allows them to drive forward. In places like Bangalore, it literally is like gold rush time there. Yeah, there are hundreds of companies and people from all over India congregate in Bangalore. And it would be a really great ambition if Cardiff was similarly attractive to talents from all over the world, and they could come and support your activities.
Yeah? Indeed. We're not blessed with some of that sort of size of puller somewhere like London, which can actually just draw in its talent as and where it needs it. We need to be a bit more strategic on our approach, I think. So some of the recent work we've been doing is about creating a longer term understanding of what the sector needs in terms of technology challenges, market disruptors, etc. And then we'll be using that to drive what needs to be undertaken with respect to innovation for technology, but also what skills are needed. Giving us that longer term view is really important because it allows us to almost change the system from being reactive into proactive. So there's quite a long lead time to generation of skills if you're looking at more typical sort of ways of doing it through universities, etc. So it needs to have quite a good long-term vision to be able to enact those in time to make sure that those skills that you'll require in the future are actually delivered as and when you need them and at the scale that you need them to support your own ecosystem. So skills and trying to not fix it, but improve the way that happens is very much a part of our work.
So have you started to see universities and colleges starting to address this, or is it, like, as you suggest, still very much in its infancy?
So there is movements. We do have universities in Wales that offer FinTech degrees.
Yeah.
I believe that they are some of the first ones in the UK to be offering that. So there is definitely a shift in that direction.
Yeah, that's really...
Yes, it is. That's really good to see. But I think that sort of longer term vision is something that we need, that comes with the industry engagement to actually better direct those universities who are all very, very willing and understanding the sort of size, impact and draw of fintech now and in the future. So they need to be addressing that.
I guess the fintech organizations are kind of also very lucky to be in a hotspot for cybersecurity. So there are a number of, in the same way as there are a variety of different fintech organizations at different scales and sizes, there are also in conjunction a number of cybersecurity businesses equally and I think that there clearly is a lot of synergy between what they do and potentially what the finance and banking industry require, especially with payments and data security, etc.
Definitely, that's a real synergy. Again, some of the things that we've noticed and are sort of trying to work towards, particularly in the future, is making that connection a lot stronger between the two sort of technology themes or sectors, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Trying to make sure that, particularly in startups, they think of cyber right at the start. So it's sort of like cyber by design rather than cyber as an afterthought later down the line.
Yeah. In
terms of technology development, it's so much more efficient in the long term to actually consider and sort of input this right at the beginning rather than doing it as an afterthought, which can obviously be quite painful and can then sort of add to your security woes, if you like. So it's something that we really encourage with the younger sort of startups particularly.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess it's probably time that we ask my final question, which I ask all my interviewees. So maybe, Gavin, you could tell us something about yourself that would surprise the audience.
Well, earlier on when I asked you about how surprising you want to be, you said that you were most surprised with someone who said they climbed mountains. Well, I tend to do the opposite, and I noticed in my diary this morning that I should actually be in France at the moment, competing in a race, a downhill mountain bike race in the Alps.
Okay.
But obviously it's cancelled due to COVID. So next year, at this date, I shall be doing that. So that's my possibly surprising thing I do in life.
I saw a really terrifying Red Bull video of a downhill race, in Wales, in some location, I think in Mid or North Wales, with a webcam or a GoPro on his helmet. Truly terrifying. Yeah. So.
I think that was the Red Bull Hardline with Mr. Atherton. That was probably.
Yeah, it was definitely associated with Red Bull. So, Gavin, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, and I wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and finding out a little bit more about FinTech Wales. If anyone would like to contact Gavin, his contact details will be provided in the message around this video. So I'm sure Gavin would be delighted to hear from you if you needed to ask questions or needed to find out a little bit more of potentially how he could support you and how FinTech Wales can help your specific organisation. So thank you, Gavin, and have a good weekend.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, pleasure.